Wounding. How badly did you wound the narcissist? Many people actually don't understand what wounding is, and a considerable number of people actually misunderstand what it is by thinking it's something else. Many people think that if they tear a strip off the narcissist by telling him or her that they're useless, horrible, completely crap at their job, flop in bed, that their breath smells, and that they've no sense or taste in fashion, and the narcissist goes berserk, they've wounded the narcissist. You haven't. In order to understand what wounding is, alongside the other interactions with us, please do enter the Knowledge Vault and obtain the 3 interactions with the narcissist. This is very helpful information to help you understand narcissism. Wounding is where you challenge our control and there is an absence of fuel. It's the worst thing that you can do to us. Your behaviour causes an ignition of fury within the narcissist. Lesser and mid-range narcissists don't know that they have been wounded. Their narcissism tells them, or allows them to understand, that you are a bad person, and enter explanation here as to why that is. That you are inconsiderate, hateful, selfish, a flirt, mean, uncaring, lacking compassion, self-obsessed, self-centered, focused on only what matters to you, unable to love us, no longer love us. The various reasons and explanations could go on for a very long time as to what the narcissist is led to believe is the problem by the narcissism. The greaters and ultra know that we have been wounded, and we know that it has been as a consequence of a failure to provide fuel and a threat to our control. Wounding is a double whammy. You're not giving us the fuel that we need, and you're threatening our control. You're making us feel small, weak, vulnerable, powerless, and that must not happen. And thus our narcissism steps in to defend us against that, with the ignition of fury which propels us to take a step to assert control over you and get our hands on that much needed and entitled fuel. However, how extensive is your wounding of the narcissist? Again, many people don't realise that the nature of your wounding varies considerably. In some instances, your wounding is little more than a pinprick. It's still problematic, of course, to the narcissist, but it is not extensive, meaning that the response will be varied, dependent upon the type of narcissist you're dealing with, but the higher echelons, the response will be more commensurate with the level of wounding. There will be a more controlled response because that narcissist has a better threshold on his or her ignited fury. In terms of control, there is a higher threshold. Your lower echelon narcissists, lessers, and the lower end of mid-range, they don't have such a good control on ignited fury. They have a low threshold, and therefore they may respond with what may seem like a disproportionate response to the pinpricking of the wounding. Therefore, the wounding varies in terms of the impact that it has upon the narcissist. But why is this? Well, in order to explain it, you need to understand something of how fuel works, and then look at it in reverse. You all ought to have read my book, Fuel. It will really help you understand our lifeblood. But within fuel, there are various strands to it. So imagine layers or strands within that fuel, and the more layers there are, the better the amount of fuel that is being provided. Fuel is an emotional response occasioned by you to something that we have caused. So, if the narcissist slaps you, your cry of pain, those eyes filling with tears, the reddening of your face, your stumbling backwards, all provide fuel to the narcissist. When the narcissist gives you an orgasm, your response, the flushing of the chest, the oohs and the ahs, and the, oh, that feels so good. The gripping of the bed sheets, the widening of the pupils, the breathlessness, all of that contributes many layers of fuel. In essence, the fuel layers, with regard to the amount of fuel, incorporate words that are being used, the tone of those words, your body language, your facial expression, the look in your eyes, and gestures. The more of those that are present, the larger the amount of fuel. Accordingly, if you send a text message to the narcissist saying, "How are you?" there isn't a lot of fuel in there. All it is a kind gesture by asking after you. No real tone can be imported from it. We don't hear any words being spoken. We don't see the look in your eyes. We do not see your body language, your facial expression. And therefore there is only one layer of fuel provided in that text message. So it is not a large amount of fuel, it's a very small amount. And therefore the written word doesn't provide us with a lot of fuel. Contrast that with the examples that I gave you earlier of where you are in person with us. Then you will have all of those layers. The words that you're saying, the actual words, the tone imparted with those words, what the anger or the delight in the tone of your voice, the look in your eyes, your facial expression, your body language, and the gestures associated with what you're doing, all combine to provide us with a massive amount of fuel. And that's why we prefer approximate in-person involvement with you, because that gives us the most fuel. Now, how does that relate to the concept of the extent of the wounding that you may cause to us? It's all about what the narcissist either consciously or unconsciously anticipates that we will be getting by way of the amount of fuel. Liken it to this. Your friend invites you round and says, "Oh, would you like a cookie or biscuit with your cup of tea?" And you say, "Yes, please." They wander off and they go into the kitchen and they reappear and they've forgotten to bring through the relevant biscuits. You'll be a little bit disappointed that you didn't get a nice biscuit to eat with your cup of tea, but it's not going to really spoil your day. It's of little consequence. Your anticipation was not particularly heightened after all. It was just a biscuit, and therefore when the biscuit is not delivered, the downside for you is not particularly significant. However, if your friend has said to you, "Look, come round on Saturday evening, get dressed up. I'm going to lay on a 9-course tasting menu for you with associated fine wines. It'll be an absolute smorgasbord of taste, completely delightful. We'll have a right old time." And then you turn up to be met by them going, "Oh, goodness me, I have completely forgotten that I was arranging this. I'm ever so sorry. I'm in the middle of bath time with the kids. We'll have to do another occasion. Sorry." Your anticipation at sinking your teeth into 9 courses of that tasting menu has gone, and you'll be far more disappointed, possibly even annoyed at this failure to deliver on the feast, on the banquet. Now, you don't operate with a massive sense of entitlement or expectation that we do, nor would such a response in that way threaten your control in the way that it does with us. But imagine where we are expecting a feast and we don't get it, that causes a massive problem to us. And therefore, if we anticipate a feast of fuel from you in person and you don't provide it, that causes massive wounding. If we are expecting a feast of fuel from a multitude of people all at once over a long period of time and we don't get it, the wounding is horrendous. Whereas if we were only anticipating a little dollop of fuel and it's not provided, we're still wounded, but it is not as extensive. There, of course, remains a threat to control because you're not doing what you should do. You're signalling to us that we're not important. And the level of the threat to the control is commensurate with the failure to provide the extent of the fuel that we anticipated. So, where the narcissist is anticipating, unconsciously for lesser or mid-range, or consciously where greater or ultra, a huge amount of fuel to be provided for you. Remember, not the potency, not the frequency, the amount, and that doesn't come. The wounding is huge. Where the narcissist was anticipating a small amount of fuel and that doesn't come, the wounding is much lower. And of course, as I explained, there are those various layers, which means that there are differing levels of wounding, from the least wounding to the absolutely Armageddon ranked wounding. I'm going to explain to you now a list of the different types of wounding that you cause, possibly intentionally, but usually inadvertently. And I provide you with this list for the purposes of your knowledge, not for you to start going around trying to wound the narcissist, because that's a breach of no contact and is a breach of the first golden rule of freedom. I allow you to enable you to understand your past interactions with the narcissist so that you understand, that's why the narcissist reacted in the way that he or she did. I caused huge wounding. Or, oh right, I didn't cause that much wounding. That's why their response wasn't as I thought it would be. Remember that wounding causes the ignition of fury, and the narcissist will respond in one or more of the different assertions of control. There are 3. And the size of your wounding also impacts upon future hoovering behaviour because of the time it takes for the wound to heal and the fuel that's available to do that. But that's a separate topic. Now I'm going to provide you with the list. It's not an exhaustive list. I'm not giving you everything here, but I'm giving you a range of examples to aid your understanding. I'm going to start with the lowest form of wounding, moving up to higher ones. Ignoring or failing to respond to one text message or email or social media message. Not answering a telephone call once. A repeated failure to answer text messages, emails, social media. A repeated failure to not answer a telephone call. Not answering a Skype or FaceTime call, video call, once. Repeated failure to answer a Skype or FaceTime video call. Not responding to us when in person. So, for example, we ask you a question and you don't reply, either because you're ignoring us or you're engrossed in watching an episode of The Crown on Netflix. Speaking badly about us to others when we are not there. Walking away from us in person. Doing something for someone else when we are there. Talking to others and not us when we are in person. Repeated and widespread articulation about us being a bad person to a wide range of people. Those are just some of the examples of the way that we are wounded, going lowest to higher, to aid your understanding. If you want to learn more about wounding, access, as I've mentioned, the 3 interactions with the narcissist, and also for some worked examples, you can also access Finally Understand Wounding. Please see the links in the menu description. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.